If your team is in need of a new big-time quarterback, the transfer portal is the place to look. Over the last couple of years, it has become more popular to get a quarterback out of the portal than out of high school now. Watching a guy develop for a couple of years just is not happening anymore, but like everything in life, some things hit and some don't. So far, there have been some quarterbacks from the 2025 transfer portal that have been excellent, and there are some that have been bust, and then there are some that haven't even seen the field. In today's video, I want to talk about 8 big-time quarterbacks who have either been bust or have done nothing so far. But before we get started, if you're a big fan of college football, be sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a like if you can support today's video, and let me know what player, team, topic, or situation I can cover next. Now let's go ahead and get started and talk about some quarterbacks who have been busts. Okay, so the first guy we need to talk about is Mark Gronowski from Iowa. Some of this can be put on his shoulders and some of it can be put on Iowa, as Gronowski is the most high-profile quarterback we've seen in a long time come to Iowa. Sure, they've had a couple of 4-star recruits, but Gronowski was supposed to save things. They were supposed to reinvent the offense around him. He had won big at South Dakota State, and he put up a ton of yards while he was a jackrabbit. I mean, the guy had over 10,000 yards and 93 passing touchdowns alone, and also ran for about 2,000 yards and nearly 40 touchdowns on the ground. Gronowski also won some FCS championships, but so far through 2 games, Gronowski's completed 21 of 39 passes for 127 yards with a touchdown and a pick. He's also only completing 54% of his passes, and I think I saw a stat where through 2 games, this is the lowest amount of yards a Big Ten starter has ever had combined. That is saying something, and this is a new low for Iowa, as I thought they couldn't get any worse than Spencer Petras. I still think a lot of this has to do with Iowa, because it's not like Gronowski was some sort of slouch at the FCS level, but still. It's a mix of both, and Gronowski has definitely been a complete bust, and Iowa has hung him out to dry. The second guy I want to talk about is the new starting quarterback for Bill Belichick in North Carolina, and that is none other than Gio Lopez. Coming out of the state of Alabama, Lopez was a super underrated recruit, but was really good while he was at James Clemens High School. He ended up throwing for nearly 2,800 yards and 30 touchdowns as a senior, and would arrive at South Alabama. Lopez really got going at the end of 2024, finishing with 2,600 yards and 18 touchdowns, with 7 more scores on the ground. He was a dynamic athlete and a good player for South Alabama, and he would enter the spring transfer portal window and head over to North Carolina. He'd battle it out with 6-year guy Max Johnson, and then 2 blue-chip freshmen in Torrey Newkirk and Bryce Baker. Lopez would end up winning the starting job, but he was horrendous in their first game against TCU. He ended up going 4 of 10 for 69 yards and a pick 6, and my goodness, this was a terrible performance by Gio Lopez in North Carolina as a whole, but he is battling an injury. He quote-unquote bounced back this past weekend, throwing for 155 yards and a touchdown against Charlotte, but so far Lopez has not lived up to the expected hype. He was supposed to help South Carolina get to a bowl game, but so far he only has 1 touchdown through 2 games, and North Carolina is probably headed to the bottom of the ACC, and he may get replaced by one of the hotshot freshmen at some point. For our third guy, we're going to talk about the starting quarterback for the Stanford Cardinal in Ben Gulbranson. This is a guy who was brought in to hopefully help them win games, and they decided to play him instead of former big-time recruit Elijah Brown. Going back in time, Gulbranson went to Newberry Park High School in California, and he was actually pretty solid while he was there. He threw for nearly 3,000 yards and 30 touchdowns, but would only end up being a 3-star recruit. Gulbranson's one of those quarterbacks who's played for quite some time, as he started on and off for Oregon State between 2020 and 2024, combining for about 3,000 yards and close to 15 touchdowns. Gulbranson was not exactly the biggest name in the portal, but he was expected to start for Stanford. So far through a couple of games, Gulbranson has 251 yards without a single touchdown and 3 interceptions. Stanford has been horrendous this year, and Gulbranson is definitely part of it. He's not the main or the only reason that Stanford's bad, but I don't think things are getting any better. There's a good chance that Stanford goes winless in 2025, and honestly they needed a more high-profile player than someone like Gulbranson. Nothing against him. Our fourth quarterback of the day is a player by the name of Justyn Martin. When you take a look at the 2025 transfer portal, Martin was one of the top guys. He was considered the number 20 overall quarterback in the portal and would go from UCLA to Maryland. Going back in time though, Justyn Martin was not really supposed to be here. I say that very much in a physical sense, as he came out of the area. He ended up going to Inglewood High School, and while Martin was there, he ended up throwing for 2,100 yards and 41 touchdowns his senior season. He was a big-time recruit and ended up deciding to stay home and play for UCLA. Unfortunately, because of DTR and Ethan Garbers, Martin was sort of just stuck on the bench and never really got much of an opportunity. His best chance came in 2024 when he got an opportunity to play a chance to play against Penn State. In total, Martin finished with 179 yards and 1 touchdown for UCLA last year before deciding to enter the transfer portal. He was looking for an opportunity to start and develop, and when he decided to commit to Maryland, many immediately thought he would start. They had big-time quarterback Malik Washington on the bench, but he was only a freshman. Justyn Martin should have been better, and he ended up losing the job. In my opinion, Justyn Martin is technically a bust because he was a top 20 quarterback transfer and hasn't stepped on the field, but to be fair, he's more in the category of he just got beat out and hasn't done anything. We'll see how good Malik Washington continues to be, but if he struggles, there might be a time when Justyn Martin gets to go on the field. Going into the back half of the video, the next guy we're to talk about is Matthew Sluka. Sluka had a very interesting story, as he was a no-name recruit coming out of high school, but found a way to blow up while he was at Holy Cross. He became one of the best quarterbacks in school history, and brought his 50-plus touchdowns to UNLV. After getting off to a hot start in Las Vegas last year, Sluka had that whole NIL thing. I guess there was some sort of disagreement, or some false promises, but Sluka decided to walk and enter the portal instead of finishing out with UNLV. For his final season of college football, he became the number 21 quarterback in the portal and was picked up by James Madison. Sluka was hoping to get an opportunity to become the starter, but so far he's split time, and in total, he has 50 yards with 1 touchdown and 2 interceptions. I did not agree with Sluka's decision to enter the portal last year. Then again, I'm not him or his family, but still, it just didn't make a lot of sense, and I have no idea why scouts ranked him as the number 21 transfer quarterback. For reference, Devon Dampier and Tommy Castellanos were the guys ranked after him. In no world should Sluka have been ranked that high, and I don't think he's going to do much the rest of the year at JMU, and this is his final season of eligibility. Technically speaking, with where he was ranked, he was supposed to be a starter, and he hasn't started, and he hasn't been good either. Up next, let's talk about Luke Kromenhoek. At one point, he was one of the next big quarterbacks in the country, as coming out of Benedictine Military School, he was the guy after Holden Gariner, and while he was there, he ended up throwing for 2,600 yards and 24 touchdowns, with nearly 700 yards and 7 more scores on the ground. In his 2 years as a starter, Kromenhoek was electric and became a borderline 5-star recruit. He would decide to sign with Florida State, and last year he played a little bit in mop-up duty, throwing for 500 yards with 3 touchdowns and 2 picks. I did not like Florida State's quarterback situation, but instead of coming back, he decided to go to Mississippi State. This is very interesting, as Kromenhoek became the number 6 quarterback in the portal, but right now is 3rd string at Mississippi State. Blake Shapen is in his final year, and he had a good performance and helped them upset ASU, and the backup was Camario Taylor. Camario Taylor is one of the highest ranked recruits at quarterback to ever sign at Mississippi State, and it looks like they've just forgotten about Luke. I'm not quite sure why he went there, but just like Justyn Martin, Kromenhoek is not only a bust because he hasn't gotten on the field, but I think because he got passed up by a true freshman. That's just my take though. For our second to last player, we're going to talk about quarterback Kaidon Salter. Coming out of the city of Cedar Hill, Texas, Salter was one of the most electric quarterback recruits in the country, and ultimately finished as a top 10 high school quarterback. He was supposed to go to Tennessee, but after getting into some disciplinary issues, he would decide to transfer over to Liberty, where he became one of the most exciting quarterbacks in college football. He would arrive in Lynchburg right after Malik Willis, and Salter had about 6,000 yards and 57 touchdowns while he was with the Flames. He was also really good on the ground, rushing for over 2,000 yards and over 20 touchdowns, so it wasn't shocking when he became the number 16 quarterback in the portal. He was one of those players that could come in and be good right away, and that's why Coach Prime got him to replace his son Shedeur. Salter ended up being named the starting quarterback, but in his first game, he wasn't great. He ended up throwing for 159 yards and 1 touchdown, and while he did have another score on the ground, he sort of butchered the end of the game with his clock management and didn't secure the job. After not starting out much better against Delaware, he was benched in favor of both Juju Lewis and Ryan Staub, and it looks like the 3rd stringer Staub has now taken his job. I still wonder if Salter will get another chance, but for now, he has to be the 2nd biggest bust of any quarterback. He was supposed to be the guy for Colorado this year, and to get benched just a game and a half into the season would be really unbelievable for him. And our final guy is going to be Nico Iamaleava. He was the #1 quarterback in this year's transfer portal, and UCLA's quarterback situation is a complete mess right now. Not only has Nico not played well, but the Bruins are horrible, and Pierce Clarkson, their backup, is now in trouble as well. Going back in time, Nico was a 5-star recruit coming out of Long Beach Poly, and the volleyball phenom became a top 10 recruit, and it was rumored he signed with Tennessee for about $8 to $9 million. After playing in their bowl game in 2023, Nico took over as the starter in 2024, leading Tennessee to the college football playoff and throwing for 2,600 yards and 19 touchdowns. While they ended up getting skull-crushed by Ohio State in the first round, it was a step in the right direction. Instead, Nico got a bit selfish and wanted more money, so Josh Heupel showed him the door. He transferred over to UCLA, became the #1 quarterback in the portal, supposed to help the Bruins. Except, I never really understood why he was the #1 quarterback in the portal. I don't really think Nico is that great, and it has shown so far in 2025. Through 2 games at UCLA, Nico has only thrown for 391 yards with 2 touchdowns and 2 picks. He does also have a score on the ground, but Nico has not lived up to expectations. I don't think his supporting cast is all that great, and his offensive line is atrocious, so it's not all to be blamed on him. But Nico's UCLA Bruins are now 0-2. They're definitely not going to make a bowl game, and I think his NFL draft stock is currently as low as it's ever been. We'll see if he can bounce back, but for now, I definitely think Nico has been a bust. So yeah, in today's video, we talked about 8 high-profile quarterback transfers who have been busts so far in 2025, and what do you think? Do you think some of these were premature? Who's another transfer quarterback who has been underwhelming? And what topic should I do next? Be sure to let me know down below, leave a like if you want to support today's video, subscribe if you're new, and check out one of the videos on the end screen. Hope to see you guys again soon, but until next time, peace.